This is lesson 2 on the interest and depreciation workbook, simple interest. Simple interest is something that applies to savings accounts and loans, and it's the name given to the type of interest that is calculated on the full amount that you borrow or the amount that you start by investing over the full term of the loan or for how long you have the savings for. The amount borrowed or the amount you initially invest is called the principal, and in the formula below, it is represented by the letter P. The simple interest rate as a percentage is often called the flat rate of interest. We use the letter R to represent the rate of interest, and we're going to write it as a decimal, ideally. The term of the loan, or how long you save your money for, is usually given in years because how long most people save money for, but it could be given as any time period. Those number of time periods is given by the letter M. The other thing in the formula, I, is the amount of interest. So make sure you're okay knowing that I is the amount of interest, whereas R is the interest rate that's payable. As you can see, it then covers that below. So as I said, I is the amount of interest, P is the principal, the initial amount. Notice the spelling of principal, AL at the end rather than LE. R is the interest rate per period as a decimal. So the reason we specify per period here is usually interest rates are given in an amount PA, per annum, every year. All those things mean the same thing. But the time periods that we're given may well be given in months, weeks, or if you're looking at, say, credit cards, perhaps even just days. And so often we will have to match up or change the interest rate to the time periods that we're dealing with. Okay, so just a couple of examples with this one. They're fairly short. First one is that Timmy invested $12,500 at 4.62% per annum, PA, every year for 20 months. Calculate the simple interest that Timmy earned. So we are going to use the formula I equals P, the principal. Up here it was 12,500. 12,500 multiplied by the interest rate. So the interest rate is a decimal, 4.62%. If you divide it by 100, you get 0.0462. But it says for 20 months. So we can't have our interest rate in months, in PA, per year, because we're dealing with months. So the interest rate there is given for every year. But to find out what interest we would get every month, we take the interest rate for the year and divide it by 12. Most of you with Casio calculators should find it quite straightforward to put that in as a fraction. We then multiply it by n, the number of time periods that we're dealing with. Here that's 20 months. All into a calculator, you will find that that comes out as 962.5. But what we then remember is that this is money, so it's dollars, which means we need to have 2 decimal places. So we write the final answer as $962.50. The second example has a bit of a typo, unfortunately, at the start, so let's just deal with that one first. It says that Timmy invested $4,600 into a savings account. After 5.5 years, he had an account balance of $948.75. Well, that doesn't really make sense. How can he have lost money, almost sort of $3,500 over the 5.5 years? That actually is the amount of interest that he earns. So you'll just want to replace this figure here in your book to say that his account had a balance of $5,548.75. We then need to find the flat rate of interest, so not the amount, but the rate that Timmy earned on this account. So if the question was set up this way, the first thing we would say is let's work out how much interest he earned. And the amount of interest he earned is his final balance, his closing balance, is another way I might say that, minus how much he put in at the start. He didn't add any money to it or anything like that. He just put $4,600 and left it there. So the extra money that's coming on top, that is the interest. That's the definition. It's how much money you earn in your account. As I said earlier, the $948.75 figure, that was the amount of interest. It was put in the wrong place. So we know the amount of interest is $948.75. We know that the formula is I equals P times by R times by N. But let's have a look at the question and the information that we've got so far and substitute in the correct values. So the first one on the left, I, we just worked out in the line above that the amount of interest was $948.75. So we'll replace the I with 948.75. P, the principal, if we look back at the question up at the top, we were told that was $4,600. So let's replace the principal with $4,600. Don't know the interest rate, we're trying to find that. And we're told that the number of time periods at the top was 5.5 years. Let's use a decimal to make it a little bit easier. So 5.5. Okay, so we need to rearrange this equation, find out what R is equal to. First off though, just as a quick reminder, when you've got three things multiplied together, it doesn't matter what order you do them in. So if we start by multiplying the 4,600 by the 5.5, we get that comes out as 25,300. So 948.75 is equal to 25,300 times by R. So to find out what R is, we are going to need to divide both sides by 25,300. Then that'll cancel out the multiplying by 25,300 that we've got on the right hand side. So the interest rate is going to be $948.75 divided by 25,300, which comes up as 0.0375. But that's the interest rate as a decimal. So to turn it into the interest rate as a percentage, we multiply it by 100, and we say that that is 3.75% PA, as we were working in years to start with. So that's how you solve that one. In general, we've got the formula that I equals PRN. It's good if you can rearrange those without any extra help, but as an aside, if you want some extra tools for finding other missing things, the principal would be the interest divided by the rate times by the number of time periods. The rate would be the amount of interest divided by the principal times by the number of time periods. And finally, the number of time periods would be the interest divided by the principal times by the rate. So hopefully those rearrangements will help you. Okay, so you are then asked to do exercise 802 from the book. The questions, as always, are in the front cover of the workbook, and ask for any advice that you need.